Welcome to episode 86 of Drew's Sports Crew here on this Monday morning. Myself, Drew Skyberg, bringing you the news in the sports world. And look, we have a lot of stuff to talk about here on episode 86. We got to go through, of course, high school football playoffs. We got to talk about level two, kind of preview level three. We have one team moving on to level three, so we'll get through all of that. Also, we got to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks and their sizzling 5-0 starts. It's been an impressive go around for the Bucks so far throughout this year. And then lastly we're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers performance in Buffalo on Sunday night. A better one than people perceive, but still, not a good one. Not good enough to get the job done, and they moved to 3-5 as we know. But we'll go first through some announcements. You know the drill. Interested in buying hats? Contact at Drew Sports Crew on all social media platforms for more info, or of course myself at Drew Skyberg. Find me there. Take care of that as well. But that's kind of the main thing. As you know, Fantasia, right? That link is always in the link tree down below. If you want to get started in your DFS journey, right? Go ahead on there. If you want to go on maybe your parlay journey, maybe you're looking more on that aspect, Thrive Fantasy, they got you covered. Go check that out on the link tree. Find that code J2M then to get started on your journey to million today. So you can go check that out all on there. I guess scheduling wise, if you saw the post, you know what's coming. It's a 4-episode week here on the podcast. We got, of course, episode 86 today with myself. And then tomorrow morning, I'll be bringing you some Drew's Basketball Crew. We going through some daily fantasy. It was wild last week, right? With all the injuries, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander ended up playing last minute after being ruled out the day of the game. So it was very interesting last week in that slate. So we'll be bringing it tomorrow morning again, trying to stay on top of all the news that's happening in the basketball world. And we also then have episode 20 of Drew's College Athlete Spotlight. Yep, it is this week. It is on November 2nd. It'll air Wednesday. But then also tomorrow night, November 1st, you will have a live recording of it there on, of course, here, YouTube, or if you're watching on Twitch, welcome. Yep, it'll be on there as well. We'll have Maddie Lambert on, a Division III softball player from the University of Wisconsin Stout in the WIAC Conference is where we'll be at tomorrow night. Lastly, to round out the week, you know the drill. Journey to Million, around 5:36, kind of around that time. We might be moving up a little early for future weeks. We'll keep you posted on that. But the classics, right? You're going to hear Jared and Zach brag about how well they supposedly did, right? I mean, we've heard that the last few weeks, but it'll be a good time. And looking forward to it. Hopefully, Team Picks goes better for me than next week, because I will admit it's been a tough go around for myself and Jared. Zach's running away with the fantasy Team Picks right now. It's a disaster right now, but credit Zach. He's been on fire on that, but let's keep it going. And yeah, I mean, let's roll here into the world of high school sports. That's where we're going to go. We're going to go to the Eastern Wisconsin Conference. We'll go to level 2 playoffs. We'll talk about the 3 games that took place on Friday, October 28th. So we'll start in the world of Kiel-Kewanee, a rematch from week 1, I believe, is what we're seeing here. And what we saw Kewanee took control of this game. That's really what happened. It was, and then Kiel could not come back, basically. What I mean by that, Kewanee goes up 24-0, and they're up that at the end of the first half. No score by either team in the third, but Kiel's able to get 13 points up in the fourth, but too late as Kewanee again tacks on a field goal, make it 27-13 was your final. Kewanee moves on to level 3. Let's go to the stats. No stats for Kewanee. I can give you some Kiel stats, though. Connor Faust was 7 of 21, 2 passing touchdowns and 1 interception was Faust. Then going on the rushing side, it was a pretty decent offensive showing for the Kiel Raiders. I mean, just going through the stats, I know 7 for 21, not great passing, but the run game was pretty effective. I mean, credit where credit's due. Kiel was able to run the ball a lot this year effectively, so that was certainly promising for them. They had Connor Benversi, 3 for 50. Bryce Gullickson, 17 of 58. Connor Faust, 7 of 45. Colin Gossi, 5 of 26. Some decent, numbers. It ended up being a 5.6 yards an attempt average for the 34 attempts for 192 yards, which that's decent. I mean, that's good enough to win you a game. So looking at that, but only 7 receptions out of the 21 passing attempts. That's ended up costing the squad on the offensive end. Charlie Freese, 5 of 103 for 2 receiving touchdowns was Freese in this game. Had a great game here. Braden April, 1 for 12 then, and Bryce Gullickson, 1 for 5. On the defensive side, we saw an interception by Trey Bartz in this game. No sacks, it looks like, for Keel on Kiwani. Again, no Kiwani's got no official scoring recap here. I can tell you who scored in what quarter. I can't tell you who scored those points though, unfortunately, but I can tell you that Kiwani again is moving on in Division 5. They are going to be moving on. They're going to play Southern Door, and against Southern Door and Chilton, they squared off on Friday. We'll talk about that game right now. So what happened to surprise, maybe not surprise by many, but Chilton was up 7-0 end of 1. Look, the Southern Door team is very good. I mean, we talked about this last week. I think this team's actually going to be playing at Camp Brandel. I think they might be one of the locks for me at state. I don't see this team losing. So what happened was, Chilton, they get off to a nice start. Max Miller, 2-yard rushing touchdown, 7-0 is the score. And then from there, all Southern Door, literally 34 unanswered through quarters 2 through 4. And that was your game. But what happened was Southern Door knows this Chilton team's run first, as many do, right? And they were able to stop them very effectively. 32 rushing attempts for Chilton, 90 yards. That's at 2.8 yards an attempt, 1 touchdown, then for them on the ground again. That was kind of the story. And credit the Southern Door receiving core. They had an impressive game here in level 2. It was Drew Dowse was 11 for 13, three passing touchdowns there, no interceptions. The ground game was effective, right? Zach Lynch was 22 of 142, which was 6.5 yards an attempt, 1 rushing touchdown. Dowse had the other rushing touchdown for Southern Door. But it was 1 for 50 was Taylor Schaefer with a receiving touchdown. Then they had Derek Shinkton. They had 1 for 14 with a touchdown. And then they had Jack Peterson, 8 for 101 with a touchdown. Jared Hockey is that 1 for 3. Then in this game, some of these opponents here, trying to read their names. Sometimes it can be tough. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing them as accurately as possible here. But as you know, a lot of names in football, so certainly something we strive for here. But on the defensive side, that interception for Southern Door came from Christian Conrad, it looks like, for this team. And yeah, I mean, let's go more on the Chilton side. Again, Miller, 11 for 19 with 1 interception, no passing touchdowns. Talked about the ground game struggling. Jared Gell was that guy who flourished, though, 12 of 62, 5.2 yards an attempt. On the receiving side, Dalton Tash was 2 of 78 in this game. Zach Halbach, 5 of 63. And then Jared Gell, 1 for 11. Ryan Piarkey, 1 for 9. Jackson Ludwig, 3 for 25 for Chilton. Again, I always talk about the goal here is to always accurately and effectively, report information. So if I'm ever saying a name wrong, right, I mean, gladly send it over. Love to correct that for future episodes, future segments like this, right? So I want to credit some people in Chilton. Let me know, Ryan Piarkey. We got it right now. So there's a lot of Piarkeys, so we can say it right now, officially say. Now we know how to say it here. So yeah, I mean, but again, tough end here for the Tigers. A very successful season, though, making it to level 2, finishing number 2 in conference after an incredible game against Two Rivers as well. So credit where credit is due for them. And yeah, this Southern Door squad, they are impressive, as we know. And yeah, I certainly think you'll see this team end up at state because they square off against Kewanee on Friday, November 4th. They play the winner of Aquinas Colby, and that's the 4 and the 3 in their respective section, which is right above them. And just to be honest, I mean, I I don't see Southern Door losing to either of these squads looking through it. I mean, it's impressive how Colby beat number one St. Croix Falls 28 nothing. So, and that was the 4 beat the 1 there. You didn't see that much here. And at any level, Aquinas then also beating the 2 38-16. So like these were not really close games. Was the interesting thing about this 1 and 2 Southern Door Kewanee. I'll take Southern Door by probably multiple scores. Reason being, let's go through it. Kewanee and Southern Door, of course, in the same conference. Kewanee finished the runner-up, so Kewanee lost to Southern Door. I'll give you the score here in a second. Southern Door won 19-14, so closer game than people perceived, including myself. I don't know. I don't see the Southern Door team falling to Kewanee. I know sometimes even in football, it's not the easiest to beat a rival twice a year. I mean, even like in basketball, they say it's hard to beat a team 3 times a year. If you're from Valders, you know that when many times they'll sweep a regular season round or conference round, and they meet the same squad they swept in the regular season, and you lose, which that's happened. But going through this, Kewanee, of course, being the underdog based on the seed and whatnot, looking for an upset, but certainly Southern Door looks like the favorite to win this game, to move on, go to state there in D5. Let's go to the last game, though. We'll talk about Two Rivers and Kewaskum, the 3 versus the 2 in Division 4. Look, I talked about it. I was talking about how I think Two Rivers, I think they should be favored to win this game. I know they're 3-2. I really like Two Rivers in this ball game, and they showed out. They were up 14-0 at the end of the first half, thanks to a Chase Mathias 6-yard run in the first quarter. And then another Chase Mathias run in the second, around the 1 minute mark for both. Give them a 14-0 lead at half. Then they go up 21-0. Chase Mathias does it again, 21-0 there. And then a 62-yard pass for Kewaskum gets them on the board. No score in the fourth. Two Rivers gets the job done, 21-7 at Kewaskum. How'd that happen? Chase Mathias, 22 of 155, 7 yards in attempt, 3 rushing touchdowns. Damian Gretz, 5 of 63 as well. Impressive stuff for Gretz there. Coming up big. Justin Klinkner only had to throw the ball 12 times, had 2 interceptions, though. So he was 8 for 12. 4 of his incompletions, out of those 4, 2 were interceptions, is what I'm saying. So not a great showing there for Klinkner. However, again, credit Mathias. And then also the receiving side, Elijah Mott, 3 of 55. So they're really able to hold this Two Rivers passing attack in check. But when you got Chase Mathias, that's okay with them. Able to really control the game on the ground is what I'm seeing. We saw Kewaskum throw for 18 times. Ryan Cook, 7 of 18, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 36 of 60 was the rushing side. 1.7 yards an attempt. Impressive by the Raiders there. 12 of 46, however, was Dylan Steger for them. Otherwise, the receiving attack, Bailey Ralph was 265 with that receiving touchdown. Not much else going for Kewaskum. Again, Two Rivers, they had an interception. Xander Pop had that interception. They also had 3 sacks. It was Elijah Mott, Christian Piles, and Connor Sanford getting the job done for Two Rivers. And again, they win this game 21-7. The undefeated season continues for the Raiders. We'll preview the game here. Racine St. Catharines is the opponent. I'll give you all the full rundown on them. But again, Two Rivers moves to 11-0 overall. So we're going to go to that Racine St. Catharines game. What happened, right? They play them. They're at Racine St. Catharines. We'll talk again here about the squad. I had some common opponents up. Again, we're not going to look too much into that. We're going to talk more about this team, what they like to do, right? So this Racine St. Catharines squad at 10-1 overall is this team. And Coach Dan Miller, his squad finished 6-1 in the Metro Classic Conference. They finished, again, second place in that conference. And Martin Luther won that conference, going 7-0. However, they did fall in the playoffs. But really, I mean, Racine St. Catharines, they have a quarterback who threw for over 1,600 yards in the regular season. So to put that in perspective, It's kind of what it's around Max Greenbuck's number for passing. So, they have like a guy who is like the second in conference in passing yards in the EWC. But then they have two runners. They have two running backs. It's Javion Hunter, DJ Miller. And both of these players combined for 1,855 yards. So both these players combined for um, a little over 200 more yards than what Braden Reimer accumulated in the Eastern Wisconsin Conference. So if you're looking at it, I mean, that's a pretty lethal attack. Plus, um, they have two wide receivers. They have Jakari Oliver and Davion Thomas Kumpala, who really the main one being Thomas Kumpala, 841 receiving yards to Jakari Oliver's 362. But it's not often you see a kind of thing like this where you'll see a quarterback with over 1,500 passing yards, two running backs with over 900 yards combined, or 900 yards each, and then you have a receiver with 841 yards. I mean, that's not common at all, which concerns me with this is kind of an interesting attack. Again, that perspective for the 841 receiving yards, that is in between Noah Heinen's 1,008 and Austin Phillips who's number 2 with 613. So, I mean, that's pretty lethal offense considering they would have. I mean, I know the two 900-yard rushers, or the two running backs who had over 900 yards each, won't be in the rushing yards, but looking at the stats, like they would have some conference leaders if you're just looking at the numbers game again. So that's an interesting kind of how they have a lot of talent, basically, is where I'm going with that. But they were also able to average 41.5 points a game in the Metro Conference, which this Metro Conference was, I'm not going to say really top heavy, but it was certainly, it had some not so good teams, which with that, the EWC was, from a talent perspective, was not valued as much either. But look, they won their non-con games, but they also played. I mean, they lost to Martin Luther by 7, but the Campbell Sport team that they beat 38-27. So keep that in mind. They won by 11 the week prior. I want to highlight that as that Campbell Sport team, I think I think Two Rivers would beat them, certainly. Campbell Sport finishing 7-4, but I think Campbell Sport is, not Two Rivers is a better team if those two were to face off, and I think Two Rivers will play Campbell Sport or Racine St. Catherine's closer than an 11-point game is where I'm going with this. I can see Two Rivers winning this game. I guess where I'm going with it, I could see it being, Two Rivers could lose by a score. I think this is going to be a one-score game, though, if we're looking in that aspect. Not an 11-point outing we saw with that Racine St. Catherine Campbell Sport game, but, Two Rivers, they got the job done at Kewaskum. Why can't they get it done against Racine St. Catherine's? That's kind of where I'm looking at it, but I guess if we're going to that Campbell Sport, let me give you that 27-38 game. I'll kind of tell you what happened here before we kind of move on. I would like to point out how Campbell Sport, they had a lot of success running the football. And this is what you want to hear if you're Two Rivers. They were 20 of 122. So I think they might have lost themselves it by only running the ball 20 times. But that's kind of where I'm seeing it. They didn't really run a lot of plays, so that's a little interesting. So that tells me what exactly Racine St. Catherine's is going to do, and I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball. They ran it 41 times last week, and they passed for 25 times. So a very similar kind of output that we see from Two Rivers. We'll see Justin Klinkner throw 10 to 20 times, and I think we'll see 30 to 45 runs for Matthias and co. So I'd imagine both squads are going to have that similar kind of output where their Racine St. Catherine's quarterback was able to throw 15 of 25 for passing touchdowns in this game. Like, it was some impressive stuff. And, on the running side, it was DJ Miller, 37 of 214. He led the way. And then, of course, Davion Thomas Kumpala, 8 for 116 with 2 receiving touchdowns. So it's exactly like Two Rivers, where they've balanced receivers, where Jakari Oliver had a receiving touchdown as well. Lamont Hamilton was thrown in there. He got receiving touchdowns as well, 3 for 47. So usually, right, I mentioned Thomas Kupala, Jakari Oliver. You cannot forget about Lamont Hamilton as well for this team. I think, yeah, Campbell Sport. I mean, they played, if you look at the stats, I mean, they played a pretty good game. But they couldn't get the job done. I do like, again, how Two Rivers matches up in terms of, if they can stop the run, I like their chances in this game. But again, Racine St. Catharines is a very potent offense, very, very, very good offense. So it'll be tough, but Two Rivers, again, has proven they can beat some of these tough squads, and certainly can't count out the Raiders. Again, we're rooting for our EWC team. Yeah, I think we'll see a one-score game at Racine St. Catharines is where I'm going, and that will wrap it up here for the EWC talk. Again, special thanks to wissports.net. Again, you can find that all down below. We're using WSN here for all of your EWC needs. So thank you again to wissports.net. Let's go here to the world of basketball. Not football. We're going to go to basketball. I got the Bucks going. I have them going 3-1 this upcoming week. I said they were going to go 2-1 the week prior. Do I need to just stop counting on the Bucks? I mean, they went 3-0. I got them 3-1 this week. They got 4 games. Just that back-to-back Minnesota at Minnesota, that game scares me. I think that might be the game they lose. If I'm looking at it, I do like them on Saturday against OKC, but they've had a lot of home games, so I'm not going to say they've been easy games. But the Bucks historically have done very well at home the last for Pfizer Forum, as we know. So they got 2 games against Detroit, which we love, Monday, Wednesday. Love both those games. I'll go back and recap, of course, the prior week. I just want to do the preview right away. Then we got to go to Minnesota Friday night. And then you come back to Oklahoma, or you come back to Milwaukee in a back-to-back to face OKC there. I am seeing the games at 9 p.m. in Minnesota. Are you kidding me? I mean, sometimes this will happen. It's a Friday night game at Minnesota, so Central Time at 9 p.m., but ESPN is airing the game, so they control when they air it, when the game goes, which is disaster. So what this means, they pair, instead of an East Coast game with a West Coast game, they pair an East Coast game with a Central game, because obviously they don't want the East game starting at 10 o'clock. So they're like, okay, we're going to start the East game at 5 o'clock. It's really 4 o'clock our time, right? I mean, something like that. Or even 6 o'clock or 7, or they'll just start it at 7 o'clock. They'll say it's going 2 hours, 6 o'clock or something. And then boom, we get to 9 o'clock and they put the Central game on. And that means Milwaukee and Minnesota play at 9 o'clock. I've been at one of these games before. It was at Pfizer, and a game started at 9 o'clock and we were out of there at 11:30. So, I mean, very late, but it'll be a fun game. If you're up watching it, it'll be a good one in Minnesota. OKC then at home, 7 o'clock. So you have 3 7 o'clock games, 1 9 o'clock is what we're looking at this week. But let's go to last week. Was at the game against New York. Again, they played sloppy down the stretch. I mean, I was talking about it. Not really a good outing, but you still win by 11. So that's how you know you're a great team, when things weren't going right that fourth quarter. Not really, midway through the third, it felt, after they ballooned out to a 20-plus point lead, but able to take control, still win by 11 was nice to see. Of course, that Brooklyn game on Wednesday was phenomenal. Giannis, 43, 14, and 5. Again, Giannis against New York on Friday, 30, 14, and 9. And then he puts up 34 and 17 versus Atlanta. But I want to credit Drew Holiday in that one. Played, he had the game-winning plays. Him and Brook Lopez, certainly. Giannis gave what's almost expected of him at this point, right? Which we've talked about, with how dominant he's been so far this year. But yeah, talking about guys who showed up. Drew Holiday, 34 points, 13 of 22 with 4 steals, 1 block. I mean, he had game-stealing steal there in that game. Brook Lopez had his best game of the year, too. 8 for 12, 5 for 8 from 3, 21 points. Lopez looked great out there. Giannis, actually, this might surprise you. Giannis had a plus-minus of -10. So they were total output with him in the game, -10. Lopez and Holiday, though, +16 for Lopez, +12 for Holiday. So there you go. Bobby Portis playing winning minutes, plus-minus of +15. So love to see that. But Marjon Beauchamp also got in the game as well. He'll put up 3 in the game and played 7 minutes for the Milwaukee Bucks, trying to work him into the rotation. Can they get that 8-point win there? It was an exciting game. So I wanted to highlight that one. But yeah, I got the Bucks going 3-1 this week. I'll be watching again tonight in Detroit, or versus Detroit at home. Got that game to watch. There's a lot of sports to watch. We have Monday Night Football to watch tonight, and we have the World Series. So anyone got their 3-monitor, 3 TV setup, let me know. We got a lot of sports we have to watch tonight. But I mean, that's really all I want to talk about with the Bucks. They've been playing really good basketball without, Pat Connaughton, without Chris Middleton. When those guys come back, it's gonna be interesting to see how the lineup works out. I mean, Javon Carter's played pretty good in that lineup. Allen's played well. I mean, this team looks good. And I know we don't like to see them. I mean, we like to see them win regular season games, obviously, but we don't want to see maybe the 60 win where you have a lot of, it seems your team's fatigued come postseason. So I'll take 50 wins, 55 wins, even if players get some more rest down the stretch, just not too much rest, because we've seen that also bite teams. But I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I mean, this is dominant squad, a lot of fun being able to watch the first or 2 of the first 5 games, considering many were at home. Looking forward to go to many more Bucks games. I mean, very affordable. Student Rush is a program you can do with them. Get some great ticket values, $10 to $12 day of, or even $9. So I definitely recommend you take advantage of that, because this team is a lot of fun to watch this year, and it's fun to watch some winning basketball in Milwaukee. I'll tell you what's not fun, though. The Green Bay Packers 4-game losing streak. Look, I mean, if you've heard this year, you've heard a lot of, since 2006, since like 1990 something, since, like you've heard numbers like that where the Packers are under 500 or whatever, or they haven't scored as many points. You've seen it. You've definitely seen it. But I want to highlight, 27-17 loss in Buffalo, as expected. Not many expected them to win this game. Without Lazard, Quay Walker having a really, really, really bad injection. Certainly, I would guarantee he would reconsider what he did, and hopefully he's not facing any kind of disciplinary action outside of that, right? I mean, we're hoping it was just a suspension, or not suspension. We're not hoping for. We are hoping for no suspension, and we are hoping it was just that ejection, that disqualification. It is all we're seeing. But look, it was from the injury side, Devondre Campbell was out then for the game, so that was a disaster. But look, Rodgers didn't play that bad. I mean, Rodgers played better than Josh Allen. Josh Allen did not play great in this game. If you're looking at it, I mean, he had some great throws. He was 13 to 25, 2 passing touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He had 2 really bad miscues in this game. I want to credit the team around him. I mean, it was just a great team win for that squad. I also want to point out Green Bay. I mean, they did actually what I thought they should play. I mean, they ran the ball, they ran the ball down their throats, right? And that tells you 20 of 143, 7.2 yards an attempt for Aaron Jones, 10 for 54 with A.J. Dillon as well. So 30 times you run the ball. I was like, okay, now they're ready for the run. And you know what Aaron Rodgers did? Drop back, made some nice plays. Romeo Doubs played pretty well in this game, 7 targets there, 4 for 62. He had that one stellar catch there in this game. Samori Toure also had his first receiving touchdown of his career. I like that as well. I don't like Amari Rodgers out there. I know many agree with me. Christian Watson gets hurt right away in the game when he was supposed to be a weapon utilized in this offense. That was tough to see. Otherwise, Robert Tonyan's just over reliable. 5 of 35. Ultimate safety valve there for Rodgers. Otherwise, yeah, Sammy Watkins has not done anything. I mean, I know Watkins they signed anticipating a nice return, but nothing they've gotten from Watkins. It's been a disaster this year. On the defensive side, Rasul Douglas, it seemed he was on the bad side of a lot of these nice plays for Buffalo, but at the same time, I mean, he had a sack, he had a QB hit. I mean, he had some pressures. He had one pressure, but like I felt he played okay in some aspect, but he certainly didn't play, great in some of those instances on Diggs. on Davis. And then, of course, we saw Jair Alexander was talking with the whole squad. That was something to see before the game, during, and after, quite frankly. But Alexander and Douglas both got interceptions in this game. So Douglas got that there, but it seemed we had Allen was able to attack and utilize that matchup. Whoever Rasul Douglas was on, he had some not so great plays on defense, but Eric Stokes played pretty well. I mean, I know his name doesn't really show up in the stats a lot, but I thought he had a nice game. Otherwise, Kingsley Enagbare, I mean, he's another guy who played well in this game. Again, he's limited snaps. I feel like his snap count has been, trending upward. We didn't see much from Rashawn Gary in this game. Always being tough. Certainly a guy they double team, right? So that was we noticed that. I mean, Isaiah McDuffie was the guy who stepped in for Walker. Played all right. I was like, okay, cool. Otherwise, I don't know. The defense only allowing really 27 points. They got 2 takeaways. I don't know. I wasn't too mad about this defensive performance. I was a little bit more upset with the offense. I mean, it wasn't really an ideal show. I mean, they still they were able to run the ball, but look, they couldn't keep up with kind of how Buffalo was playing. Of course, the receiving core, which I'll touch on right now. Stefon Diggs, 6 of 108. He had a 53-yard touchdown there. James Cook had a nice play, a 41-yard reception. That's Dalvin Cook's younger brother, of course. Gabe Davis, 2 of 35. Really everyone else was held in check. Singletary, 14 of 67. Josh Allen, 6 of 49. James Cook, 5 of 35. Safe to say James Cook is that number 2. No more Zach Moss. 13 of 25 was Josh Allen. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And yeah, I mean, now we see Buffalo move to 6-1 overall. Or I guess why do I say that? I say like it's EWC 6-1. They move to Packers, go to 3-5, unfortunately. But Packers have a better showing than many in the nation predicted, I'll say. But they don't do what was enough. I mean, they didn't do enough. They weren't able to move the ball enough to win the game. They weren't, they didn't get enough key stops. I mean, they got those takeaways like I mentioned, but they didn't get fully enough. So the stats wise, I'll tell you, I'll read it to you. And this is kind of where I say like they played okay, because if I read you these stats, you would probably tell me the Packers won this game. 398 total yards to Buffalo's 369. Buffalo 2 turnovers, Green Bay 1 turnover. So you outgained the opponent. You have less turnovers than the opponent. You have more first downs. 21-20 was Green Bay to Buffalo. And then you dominate time of possession, 33-48 to 26-12. So stats tell you Packers maybe won this game. Packers could have won this maybe by a score. But reality tells you they lost by 10. So that's why, looking at the stats, sometimes stats are certainly the deceiving ones, because you'll see that and you're like, wow, I mean, Packers could have won this game. They outplayed them too. They had more, or outplayed they had more plays. Buffalo certainly outplayed Green Bay in this one, but penalties is kind of what makes a little difference here. I mean, not a little, but a huge difference. 8 penalties for a total of 58 yards. So you don't like to see that. Packers special teams had no blunders tonight, or last night. So that was decent to see. I'd love to see that. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know what else to say. It was a game expected that they lost, and they did lose it. So it's like, okay, I can tell you where they go from here, though. November 6th, they play at Detroit. Look, I hate to say this one's a must-win, because I feel like every game's a must-win, but come on. You lose 4 in a row. You start 3-1. You lose 4 in a row, and now you're looking at 3-5. I mean, right now it looks like, maybe you can get in with 9 losses, maybe 8 losses. It's going to have to be a 9-8, but you're going to have some tiebreakers. And if Packers want some tiebreakers, they got to start winning some games. So I think this Lions, Cowboy, Titans stretch, I mean, this is a stretch here of 3 games that you get Detroit and you get Detroit on the road, which is okay. I like them on the road against Detroit, but you get Dallas and you get the Titans at home. So you get two games at home that it's like, oh, come on. I could see the Packers going on, on a more optimistic note. I feel like the Packers can win against the Lions, move to 4-5, and then we could certainly see them here beat the Titans and or Cowboys. I'd be more concerned maybe with the Titans just based on how fundamentally sound of a football team they are with Henry and just being able to efficiently move the ball in games so far this year. I feel like they can beat Dallas at home. I feel like that's game. Come on, I mean you got to win that one. That'd be frustrating otherwise, but then you get the Eagles and the Bears in those next two games, so it'll be interesting how the Packers come out. So this 5-game stretch I think is crucial. I think you're hoping for at least 3-2. I mean, I say that because you do have the Eagles thrown in there, but I'm rooting. I could see 4-1 this stretch, and that's of course me looking at like Packers could still do something here, but I didn't really mention the last ones. They have to go to Miami, face the Dolphins. They have to play the Vikings still, so and they have to play the Rams. So it's like okay, there could be some losses sprinkled in there, but this certainly was their toughest game of the year, Sunday night at Buffalo. So we got through this one. Now it's like, okay, well, you're basically halfway through. Gonna go on a run right now. So that's what we're rooting for with the Packers. Hoping we can see the one come soon here as we want to see the squad in the playoffs. But again, that is going to probably wrap it up here. Check out, of course, next week, the Packer game against Detroit. It's at noon on Fox. So that's where you'll find that game. And yeah, looking through it, I mean, that's all I got to talk about today. We talked about, of course, high school football. Good luck to Two Rivers on Friday as they face Racine St. Catharines. Milwaukee Bucks, we got 4 games this week. We're rooting for keep the streak alive, go 9-0. Why not? I unfortunately, my stat prediction I have, or my standings record prediction, 3-1 is what I picked this week. But why not for the Milwaukee Bucks basketball and the Packers? We're just rooting for a turnaround. Maybe something happens before the deadline. Trade deadline, we'll see. But again, that will wrap it up for myself, Drew Skyberg. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Drew's Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.